Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Derek Lowen for another edition, episode 4 of the Positively Injection podcast. I had amazing interviews with Brad Johnson, Mike Kelly, and Jeff Reinbolt, and we uncovered a lot of things. But I'm going to have someone who I haven't talked to face in probably close to almost 2 decades. Social media is one thing, but talking to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, kick returner punt time in CFL history, right up there with Gizmo Williams, Pinball Clemens, Bashir Livingston. There's been many great returners from coast to coast in the CFL over the years. We're going to unpack a lot of things. We're going to first say that this is my positivity injection podcast. We are like an elevator rising up to the top for our daily dose of positivity. I'm your host, like I said earlier, Derek Lowen. We are ready for some high voltage and ready to rock and roll with one of the greatest kick returners we got, Keith Stokes, an undrafted receiver in the 2001 from Eastern Carolina. He has many accolades. Career highlights include winning the Frank M. Gibson Trophy, the John Argo Special Teams in 2002. He's CFL All-Star in 2002, 2004. To make it more relatable to my viewers and pontificated to the masses that are listening with Mr. Keith Stokes, there was a special teams war in the beginning of the century between Montreal Alouettes, Keith Stokes, and Toronto Argonauts, Bashir Livingston, both quality players that played for both quality organizations. Keith Stokes was a lethal kick returner where overall he generated 3,734 yards and 900 return touchdowns and also 4,132 yards and 1 touchdown. We have lots to uncover before we get some silent radar with this guest who gets touchdowns absolutely any time, because it was some crazy days in the CFL at the beginning of the century, because all our lives were embedded like a stereo, because we in Canada, coast to coast, were infatuated with Keith Stokes. My goal and mission is simple with this guest, is to leave the listeners feeling a little more bit wiser. We're going to explore his youth in New Jersey, playing days in the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Toronto Argonauts, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll talk briefly about his stints with the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins between the 2002 Grey Cup winning team with the Montrealites, and follow with a close with a question and answer. So I'm just waiting for Keith Stokes to appear. He should be appearing any moment. Then we'll see with what's the halves. Just waiting patiently. In the words of 50 Cent. So here we go. I'm going to go to my invites. Here we go. We are going to do this. We are see with what's going on, and we are in the process of elimination. Here we go. Da, 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 bum, bum, bum. Cancel recording. See. Link. Hey Keith, how you doing, bud? Just give me 1 sec, boss. Okay. Hey Keith, are you there? Hey Keith, long time no see, buddy. How you doing?
Going on, man?
Very good. It's been many years. I haven't probably seen you physically in probably about close to like 2 decades.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. So, anyways, I just gave it viewers, the listener. I apologize about the mishap with the technical difficulties. I'm still learning this whole Zoom thing.
Gotcha.
So basically, right now is I just gave a brief summary to my listeners that I started this positivity injection podcast, and my main purpose for doing so. Let me just look through my notes while I got you here. So basically, I just said that we were like an elevator rising up top. You know, when you go on an elevator, you go up, you want that daily dose of positivity. And I couldn't think of someone who was the best special teams player growing up as a kid when I was a little young toddler when you saw me years ago.
Yeah.
And that was like so long ago. I'm your host, Derek Lowen, and obviously you're my guest, Keith Stokes. We're ready for some high voltage and rock and roll with one of the greatest kick returners to ever grace the CFL. We got Mr. Keith Stokes, an undrafted receiver in 2001 from Eastern Carolina. He has many career highlights and awards, such as winning the Frank M. Gibson Trophy, the Grey Cup in 2002, the John Argo Special Teams in 2002, and obviously being an All-Star in 2002 and 2004. So to make it more relatable to my viewers and I guess use a fancy word, pontificate the masses, basically giving a sermon. If you remember, the viewers, and obviously you, Keith, as well, there was a war between you guys in the Montreal Alouettes, you being the best kick returner and punt returner, but in your same division, you had a guy on the Toronto Argonauts by the name of Bashir Livingston, both quality players for quality organizations. Your career highlights are pretty much summarized best as a kick returner and punt returner. When you generated 3,734 yards, 9 touchdowns, then you also had kick returns of 4,132 yards and 1 touchdown with your stints with the Bombers, with the Alouettes, and obviously with the Toronto Argonauts. So just to say, we have lots to all uncover before we get some silent radar with this guest who gets touchdowns absolutely anytime, because it was some crazy days in the CFL in the beginning of the century, because all our lives, myself, the viewers, and obviously yourself, were like a stereo, because in Canada, coast to coast, we were infatuated with a legend, the one and only Mr. Keith Stokes. My goal and mission is simple with this guest, is to leave the listeners feeling a little bit more wiser. We were going to explore his youth in New Jersey, playing days in the CFL with the Alouettes, the Bombers, the Argos, and the Bombers, and we'll touch lightly on the 49ers and the Dolphins between the 2002 winning team with the Montreal Alouettes, and follow with a close question and answer. So, Keith, what have you been up to since your playing days?
Oh man, wow. First, appreciate you having me on there, man. It was a great introduction. Appreciate that.
I appreciate it too.
This is my playing days. Coaching, man. That's it.
Where are you coaching, if you don't mind me asking?
Right now, I'm the head coach of Elizabethtown. As you see, I got my clothes on.
Beautiful.
Area High School in Pennsylvania. I'm the head coach there.
Nice. You haven't aged since I've seen you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going into my 3rd season there.
Right on.
My record right now is what? We're 8-2 my first year.
Right.
In my 2nd year, we're 2-8. So I'm 500.
Hey, that's not bad to start as a head coach.
Yeah.
So did you have any aspirations to become a head coach, Keith?
A head coach? Nah, not really. To coach football, yes.
And what do you mean by that?
Head coach thing just kind of happened and fell in my lap.
Right. Okay, so I just changed the background, Keith, and the head coach became like that because I was in San Francisco on a bridge. So I wanted to blur the vision where I'm staying, but like you are as well. Where are you currently residing? Just so my listeners aren't aware.
Right now, I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where the Amish people live at.
Love it. Love it.
Yes, I'm actually like between Harrisburg and Philadelphia.
Nice. And what do you like most about it, if you don't mind me asking?
You know what? Honestly, it was like a down south home feeling,
Gotcha.
little homey area. Like if I wanted this city, it's only an hour away.
Right.
If I want to be quiet, I live right here.
Good deal.
It's a
Good
pretty
deal.
good
Good
area.
deal. So tell me more, Keith, about growing up in Toms River, New Jersey, because your hometown seems very distinct, especially New Jersey. What do you remember most of your time growing up in New Jersey and Toms River?
Most of I grew up like South Town River, like middle class area in New Jersey.
Nice.
Actually, football wasn't even my favorite sport at all.
What was it?
Soccer.
And were you like, again, there's a generation gap between you and I say that with love, kindness, and respect. Was there any soccer players that you were really into back then?
Pele was the man. That was it. It was Pele. You know, the guy from Brazil.
Nice.
Pele was the guy. I mean, I was football kind of came by accident. I mean, you play in the neighborhood, but I mean, I never really played like organized football to probably, I want to say grade 7.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. And it was kind of an accident. I went to a practice. I mean, I knew all the kids on the team just from the neighborhood playing, but I didn't play.
Right.
And my best friend's dad told the coach, "Listen, that kid standing over there is the best player out here. He just doesn't play." And I mean, all the kids was like, "Oh, maybe he can play
Saw
whatever."
potential, man. That's awesome.
Then I was out there just punting the ball, kicking as a soccer player does. I'm kicking field goals and punting before practice. The guy blew the whistle, was like, "Practice." I run to the sideline, like, okay, practice over. I go there and watch the practice like I've done thousands of times. He goes, "Hey, you want to play?" I'm like, sure. He said, "Hey, go see Vinny over there by the by the equipment stuff." I go over there, grab equipment, didn't practice that day, came back, and I was like, "Hey, real quick before I grab all the stuff, like, when do we have games?" He was like, "Sundays." I said, "Yeah, you might want to take the stuff back. My mom ain't let me play on Sunday. That's church day."
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, then he convinced my mom that he would pick me up every Sunday at church, and I would go to games. And
That's a good
funny
mentor to
story
have.
about that. So my coach tells myself and my best friend, "Listen, I'll buy you guys any pair of shoes you want if you score like, I think it's like an 8-season game or something like that. You score 8 touchdowns." I was a fullback. My best friend was a tailback. I think I might have had like 20 touchdowns. something crazy.
Nice. So, Keith, what figures from your community stand out in your mind when you think about your community growing up in New Jersey?
Honestly, I think that's what kind of made me who I am, like the competitive nature that I am. Like playing games wasn't tough at games. It was going back to the neighborhood playing against everybody else. Like you go in the neighborhood. I mean, we played, basically area against other areas, and the competition that we created in our circle was unbelievable. Like we may beat a kid at our school or at another school, but we come back home to our area, to our neighborhood, like they'd be like, "Oh, you suck. Like you're no good. Like you're supposed to beat them." Like our neighborhood competitions were a lot harder. Like it built our character, our toughness that we have coming at it, man. It was crazy.
Gotcha, for sure. So, okay, fill the blank. When I was a kid, my favorite TV show was what, and why was that your favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show when I was a kid.
Sort of make you think a little bit.
You did. Man, favorite TV show as a kid. Actually, I used to like what's it called? American Gladiators on Saturday mornings.
I wouldn't remember, but we'll say American Gladiators.
Yeah. American Gladiators might be one of my favorite shows, competing. Guys playing like whatever games. He's put a little ball in a little thing in a balance beam with the little pewter sticks. And that's one of the shows I know I used to get up early in the morning to watch those on Saturdays.
Wow, incredible. I love that story. So name an object, Keith, because I like to tailor this to the audience to know who you are as a person before they look at the athlete, because I believe it's very subjective and people always just believe with what the media says. I believe that repetition trumps evidence. The more times you hear something, it becomes gospel. So what is an object from your childhood you still own? Is there a story behind it, and why did you keep it?
So I have actually, I want to say it's 1984 or 88 baseball from the Mets when they won the World Series. Wow. Mookie Wilson went to my church.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more. Do you have any interactions when you were going to church with Mookie Wilson?
No, not really. It was funny. So he went to my church. He lived in Lakewood, New Jersey, which is probably 20, 30 minutes where I'm from in South Toms River. And he actually ended up coming to our church and gave a bunch of our kids a signed baseball autograph. And when I played for the Alouettes, Mookie Wilson was the coach for the Mets.
What a coincidence.
So crazy story. Right. The Mets are in the weight room working out. Yep. I'm in the weight room working out. And I was like, "Hey, like, was that Mookie Wilson that walked by?" And I asked one of the guys, like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Hey, like, can you tell him to come back to the weight room?" Yeah. And I see him and he comes back and I was like, "Hey, like, I know you don't remember me. I was like, but you gave a guy from our church. He was like, oh, yeah, I remember the story where I gave boys from the church autographed baseballs.
Right.
And I was like, why in the world were you driving an hour and 15 minutes every day to New York for games and practice? He's like, I was on my third marriage and I couldn't get any more trouble. So I'd rather live way out here and make my drive to New York every day.
Nice.
I get it. I mean, I get it as I was older. As a kid, I'm like, that's too far.
Absolutely. Beautiful story. Incredible. So discuss what you have learned about giving to others. Because when I remember 20 years ago, I don't know if you remember me just by talking to me or the photo that I showed you a while back. Why did you become so selfless? Was it instilled at you at an early age? Because a lot of people don't know this man behind Keith Stokes.
I was born that way, man. Like early age, my mother, and we're a Christian family, and instilled in us that you're on earth to give back. Like that's why you're here. Like basically, God has given you these talents or money or whatever it may be,
Right.
and someone less fortunate than you at that moment may need something more than what you have at the moment. And if I got it, you got it. Whether you're my brother, sister, cousin, I see you at need next to me. If I got it, you got it. Like regardless of what that looks like.
That's pretty deep. I like this talk. You were born that way. So that's amazing to hear, Keith. So basically, right now, I'm going to pretend that we're having a cup of coffee. And essentially, that's what it sounds like with what we're doing right now. It's just a free flow conversation.
Gotcha.
And everything was a complete crescendo. I want you to educate my listeners on the verbiage when you hear the word crescendo and how you would explain it in tying your college career and being undrafted to the San Francisco 49ers, years of memories and coaches and players you interacted with during that time.
I
know it's a little bit of a loaded question, but I figured it out.
Yeah, kind of loaded question. I mean, I guess we can start from I guess high school. Well, you want to go back that far? I mean,
yeah, go to high school, then go to how it became a complete crescendo.
I mean, I've always been the small, talented guy, right? So,
right.
As you being that small guy, what person you are, to play football at the stage that we played on, you got to have a chip on your shoulder. And I've never been the best player on my team, on any team I've ever been on, but I could probably say, one of the most memorable players, not the best. And my goal was always when I was playing was like, I know I'm not the best player on the team, but I'm going to do something in a game or in a play or something where the coach remembers me or the fans remember me, be like, hey, he got to get the ball again. Yeah. Like regardless what it was, how it happened, I'm going to make you remember what I've done in a positive way where I can get it done. So, I mean, that's been my my goal and my thing that pushes me as far as sports goes.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I had Division I scholarships to play soccer, which is crazy. I didn't choose to play soccer, to play football.
I'm shocked.
And I had a Division I scholarship actually to kick because I was a kicker in high school as well. I didn't want to kick, but I said in my brain, how do I get to play on TV and at the same time play Division I football? So I took the JUCO route, went to a military school, had a couple of schools that offered. It wasn't big enough for me to go. Then my second year, I became All-American at the JUCO, All-American running back and All-American returner. Then I had to pick of the litter. I mean, I could have went anywhere. I just chose East Carolina.
Nice.
On my visit, it felt like home. Like it was one of the places I went on a visit, and right away, the guys made me feel like I was there 2 and 3 years, and I'm coming in a kid just on the weekend.
Gotcha.
That made it real easy. And
okay.
I guess you would say same thing from college on to the pros. I mean, again, you got to prove yourself. And as a high school kid or JUCO kid coming into to a Division I college, coaches are going to lie to you and say, hey, yes, you're the best thing we've ever had. And when you get there, everybody's the best thing you ever had. And everybody was you when you get there. And again, prove yourself again. I mean, that's all I've been doing forever is prove myself, letting people know that I belong wherever it is. Just give me a chance and I'll prove you right. But I think more than I can say most, why is I played the mental game. I guess I played well and I made plays and stuff like that. But I think I played the game in my head more than I did on the field because I could
Gotcha.
see things and know things before it would happen just from paying attention to small details. I mean, you can ask guys that play with me. I might have been the worst practice player ever. Like I practice horrible.
Tell me more why they would say that.
Probably, but I knew the game. Like I knew every position. I knew what everyone's route was. I knew
Very diverse.
know the defense and stuff that was going on. But as far as my practice habits when I was younger, were terrible. Oh, awful.
Gotcha.
As I got older, I started playing arena. Like on my way out of the CFL, I started playing arena. My practice habits got better, but I was terrible.
Nice. So do you have any memories or stories that stand out in your mind with the San Francisco 49ers, whether it's coaches or players going in there, and how, I guess, to define what the word crescendo means to you when you hear that word?
I have a quick story. We were playing, I want to say Oakland or the Chargers, and I catch a return, and I was back to back. It was San Diego didn't play the Chargers. It was back to back games. I didn't score, but I made like crazy run, broke a bunch of tackles. Then this guy walks up to me in the locker room after the second time. He's like, "Hey, who's this?" Because over there they call me Little Stokes because I had JJ Stokes, who was 6'4", monster, went to UCLA.
For sure.
And I was 5'8". No.
Is there any relation for my viewers between you and JJ Stokes?
Nah, zero relation. Nope.
Yeah.
No relation, just same name. And this guy walked in the locker room was like, "Hey, who's this guy doing his returns?" And he was like, "Oh," somebody was like, "Oh, here he is over in the corner."
Yeah.
I says, "Oh man, that was one of the best returns I've ever seen for someone not to score." And I was like, "Oh, well, no, appreciate it." Shook the man's hand, left. He walks away. They have a team. We have everything has a team meeting and breaks off and says, "Hey." And then the receiver coach goes to me, "Hey, you know who that guy was talking to you?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "The next time the owner comes up to you and shake your hand and give you a compliment, make sure you know who the man is." And in my brain, I'm like, I've never seen this guy before in my life. Like, I know all the coaches. I've never seen the owner.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Keith, a brilliant story. I really admire your talent, your candor, your authenticity. Being authentic and being honest and being very direct and open about this. So let's segue to the CFL. In 2002, you run with the Montreal Alouettes. What are your memories that stand out with Alouettes when you first came? Did you know anything about Canada? How was it adapting from the U.S. game to Canada?
First time I saw the game, it looked like a video game. You got all these guys running around, and it was crazy. Guys running up and forth down the field. I didn't know what in the world was going on. But I got to Montreal actually in 2001. When San Fran released me, I came there, as a PR guy. And crazy is that when I was
One
there,
returner, just to clarify for my viewers, just so they understand that it's not public relations.
No, practice roster guy. I was on their practice roster, and he played. Jim Pop was the GM. They played every other guy but me. Every guy played that was there. I never got a chance to play.
And why was that?
I have no clue. I have no clue to this day. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to play. Then that next season, I came back to Montreal in training camp, and I never forget it. First I get to training camp, I'm used to the NFL and college. I asked for gloves. The guy's like, "Oh, no problem. Here you go. Great here." And Ronnie James, who was the old equipment guy, old school, old ways. I was like, "Hey, can I get some gloves?" He's like, "Gloves for what? You're not even gonna make the team." I was like, "What?" And it just blew my brain. Like, holy cow! I was like, "No, we don't give gloves out." And like, we're asking for numbers. I think he gave me like 85 or something crazy. And I was like, "Man, what in the world is going on here?" I'm like, this dude gave me like 85. He won't give me no gloves. Like, it was nuts. Now, granted, me and Ronnie became super close after once I made the team and all, and I told him that day, I said, "Yo, I'm gonna make this team, and you're gonna change my number when we're done." He's like, yeah, I've heard that before. I guess as an equipment guy now, like, you gotta be that stern guy and kind of a prick. You can't give everybody the gloves because you only get a certain amount of number and guys coming in and out all year. But as a young guy, you don't know that. You're like, "Man, give me some gloves."
Right.
Doesn't work that way. But I mean, I actually made the team. Our first preseason game, I might have had and I'm not even exaggerating, maybe 300 plus all-purpose yards, and I didn't play a lick of offense.
I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah, I ran a punt back and I ran missed field goal back against Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next week, we played Ottawa in a preseason game. I played no offense, no defense. I played special teams, just running down on kicks. I didn't return kicks at all. Then
Really?
the fourth quarter, they put me in the game to return a punt. The only punt I got, I caught it, ran it back. And Don Matthews tells Don was a great coach, man. And he
I remember
his
he gave me them when I was a kid.
Yeah, Don his motivation was fear, buddy. And he was like, listen, if you can't act right, it'd be DOD. And he was like, what the heck is DOD? General on Delta. He asked what you want. He said, what you want, a window or aisle? He's like, window or aisle? Seat on the plane when you go back home.
Yeah.
But he told me, he was like, listen, you made me keep you. Like, I normally don't keep just a return guy. He's like, but what you were doing out there, like, there was no way I could cut you because you played, I played great in the preseason.
It was evident through your whole career, Keith. And if you want to carry on more about that, if you have more information to add before I ask my next question, I'll let you carry on because I don't want to interrupt you.
I returned kicks from there, bounced around every position on offense. I'm trying to think, maybe me and pinball that I know of, like I've played every starting position on offense in a game. Like I played the X, the Y. I played running back running back, played the third receiver, the two receiver, the one, the Y, the Z. I've started at all those positions before in a game, at least one.
Nice. So Keith, basically, as I alluded to earlier, I felt like, again, my generation, your generation, it was very hard for you at the time probably to find information that was so easily accessible and readable. Did you find any information about Canada before you came to the CFL? And then, like you said earlier about how you adapted from Canada to the States, saying that it was like a video game. So I just want to give your take about how that transition was to find out about Canada.
Information I had about Canada, Danny McManus, his brother was my running back coach at East Carolina.
Wow, small world.
So I knew about Canada, but never saw a game. Like I knew about the CFL and never saw a game. And I remember at the end of my college career, Coach Mack brought me and another guy in the office and said, hey, the Montreal Alouettes has you guys rights. If you want to go to Canada, here's a contract. And I was like, Canada? I'm not going over there. Too cold. No.
Considering that you're from New Jersey, then coming into Canada, that's like totally like, ugh.
Yeah, listen, and I went to high school in Alabama. So
that's hot.
So you talking about Alabama down south kid going to Canada, this is a whole nother animal.
Exactly. And right now in Winnipeg, it's just for my listeners that are listening, it's minus 27.4 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure you don't miss those days in Winnipeg.
Absolutely not.
Zero reservations.
Winnipeg itself, had a good time. Winnipeg was great from, let's see, when camp started until about Labor Day. After that, the weather changed and it was real different.
Gotcha. So, Keith, what was it like having Don Matthews, the winningest coach in the CFL history? And I know he's deceased and he was one of the best. Any good stories or memories about being around the Don?
Man, you got a lot of Don Matthews stories, man. I never forget my first year playing in Montreal, which was 2002.
Right.
I think we had a great season, and we go to Ottawa and we lose. And Don was very upset about that. And a lot of times we beat teams that we're supposed to beat, or he'd be like, no practice on Monday, like get an extra day off to rest. And we lost to Ottawa, I believe it was. And Don was like, you guys think you're safe on the bus home? He's like, you guys think you're going to make this team. Yeah. Then the very next day, Don had 30 guys at our practice out there trying out for our team.
Really?
30 brand new guys. He said, we got 2 guys here on this team that's safe. That's Anthony Cavillo and Ben Cahoon. We was like, what? He got a whole team out there warming up after our practice, trying out for our team. I was like, what in the world is going on? And you're looking to the side while you're practicing. These guys over here warming up. And you're like, holy cow, what in the world? Now, I don't think Don probably would have signed him now, but when you're on the team, you're looking to the side, you see new linemen, new quarterbacks, receivers running, punters. You're like, holy cow.
Right.
But it worked.
Absolutely. He had a really good run. So you just mentioned earlier, like you guys had a great team in Montreal, and I'm sure you would allude to that. Led by Brian Chu at center. You had a Hall of Famer quarterback in Anthony Calvillo, what Don Matthews said, and you had receivers like Ben Cahoon, Jermaine Copeland, and with a great defense with Anwar Stewart and Baron Miles. I'm just wondering, do you have any memories or stories you want to share with that 2002 Grey Cup champion team playing against the Edmonton Eskimos that were loaded with talent like Ricky Ray, John Avery, Brazel, Terry Vaughn, Ed Hervey, and Jason Tucker?
Holy cow. Like you said, those names that were playing, like it was, you talking about Hall of Famers everywhere on both sides of the ball.
I agree.
Both teams. I mean, memories of
the season or the whole game itself.
Trying to see, like, I do remember my first game that year. We played Calgary, and AC calls a play, and I think I run a slant route, and he's looking off to the right. And normally, like, you turn your head, not paying attention, because he's running to the right. I'm looking to blow block, turn around. He throws me a no-look pass. It hits me in the face.
Yep.
And I'm like, I get to the huddle. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, pay attention. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you looking the other way. Don't throw me the ball. That's the first time I ever seen a no-look pass. And, man, it was nuts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, then I can tell you so many different stories and great times I had in Montreal. I remember, Barron might have had, and I'm not lying, probably top 3 best hands on the team. Like, dude would catch, incredible hands. Would catch everything to be on the defense side of the ball. Ben Cahoon, that year, I believe he might have had 125 catches and maybe 5 drops. Like, maybe 5. Yep. Like, the dude never dropped anything. Never dropped anything.
Incredible.
And back then, Anwar was, I think he's a Hall of Famer, but then he was a backup guy that just made plays, made after play after play, and was a backup guy.
Amazing run you guys had.
Yeah, then you think of, we used to call that Edmonton team the track team. You got Ed Hervey.
Terry
you
Vaughn.
Had Brazel on that team. You had Terry Vaughn, Jason Tucker, John Avery. Like, they could probably go right now and go run a track meet. Back then. Get on the track and give a track team a real competition.
But is it safe to assume, Keith, in your opinion, right now at the nice age of in your mid-40s, do you think you could still win in a sprint race with Terry Vaughn, Chris Brazel, John Avery, and Jason Tucker?
I couldn't win then. Heck no, I couldn't win then. No, not even close.
I love the honesty, Keith. So I just want to transition because I'm from Winnipeg, as you know, and a younger Derek is in awe of this moment. Can I show you a picture that was taken of my younger brother and I in 2004?
Sure. Make me nervous.
You remember this?
Oh, wow.
Like, this is so many years ago when my brother is celebrating his birthday on March 31st. He just became a proud father, and I'm just wondering if you'd be so kind out of your time and doing this podcast to wish him a happy birthday. His name is Cody.
Cody, happy birthday, man.
Small world, man. I really appreciate you doing that.
No
so
problem.
What I want to do, Keith, is I want to really dive into your Winnipeg career. And do you have any memories at Canada Stadium? But before we dive into that, I would be remiss if we did not discuss the 2004 season and share stories and memories and pay homage and tribute to one of the best coaches in the CFL and Coach Dave Ritchie.
Oh, absolutely. I remember Coach Ritchie, when I first got traded to Winnipeg, and I get there, and coming from Montreal, actually, when I found out I was traded, no one told me. I'm literally in Montreal doing the off-season trainings, in my apartment laying down, watching TSN, and I just see my name go across the ticker like Keith Stokes traded to Winnipeg. And I was like, what? Like, what in the world going on? Then my phone rings like 2 hours later. I get a phone call from Brendan Taman, and then Coach Ritchie calls.
Gotcha.
Like right after Brendan called, then Coach Ritchie called me and was like, "Listen, we're glad to have you in Winnipeg. Great to come. We expect great things from you." Then Coach Ritchie goes, like the next call, says, "Listen, I'm expecting great things for you. We didn't trade for you to sit. We traded for you to play. You're going to do great things in Winnipeg." And I'm like, "All right, well, I appreciate it." Then I get to Winnipeg, man. It was kind of crazy because then there was no hockey. And I've never seen mosquitoes that big for my life. Oh, man. It was, man, that camp, but I had bug bites all over my arms and legs. I was like, this is nuts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, the practices are so different from Coach Ritchie to Don Matthews. I mean, Don Matthews, we walked around in shorts and a helmet every day and ran fast. Coach Ritchie, we were full pass hitting, tackling. It was old school football and get with it.
Gotcha, Keith. So what would you say, it just makes me think of you just bringing this to my attention. I'm just using this off the cuff of my mind. What are the similarities and differences between both Don Matthews and Dave Ritchie?
Similarity, they were both great people person. Like once you got to know both of them, they were, great guys off the football field. Like forget football, like great men. Right. Like if I needed anything from both of them, they would both give me whatever I needed anyway, as far as help, as far as even, I've never asked them for money, but I've seen other guys do it and I've seen them give them to them. I'm not putting nobody out there at all, but I've seen them with my own eyes, both of them.
Love it hearing that.
Yeah. And the difference is, Ritchie coached with heart, Don coached with heart too, but Don was a different type of motivator. Don motivated with trying to think of the right word.
Was it a military mindset almost in a weird way, or?
No, not really military. Don was, I don't care what you do, get your job done. If you do not get your job done, somebody else will be here to get it done for you.
Gotcha.
So if you want to go out and drink and party in the city of Montreal, and you go out here and drop 4 passes, don't know what's going on, you're going.
Gotcha.
But if you want to do that, and you can go out here and play well and catch every pass and do the right thing on the field, great. But everybody can't do that.
For sure.
And he would let you know, like, everyone can't go out there and do, the partying every night and be in the big city of Montreal and play well. They can't do it.
Absolutely. And
I didn't have a curfew in Montreal. Coach Ritchie, there was a curfew. You had to be there on time, and Ritchie was a stickler for that, which was what we're used to coming from a college area where you got to be on time, you got stuff like that. But they were both great coaches, great men, both wanted to win. I'm thankful for both of them giving me an opportunity to play up there.
Absolutely. So to progress, though, like, amazing, and it's really heartfelt because I've had interactions with both of them and yourself as well, and I could agree to everything you've said. You guys finished with a 7-11 record, and I think there's a knock on that Winnipeg Blue Bombers team, and you had Dave Ritchie being there for half the season, and you get an interim coach in Jim Daly, who I think the world of, and I think he gets a lot of knock, and I think he's a good coach as well. What are your memories with that transition from a Dave Ritchie to a John Daly ran team?
I was a new guy to Winnipeg at the time, so you can feel the tension every time we would lose or be close games, because guys that have been there before who know Coach Ritchie and love him to death. And you can tell they were playing for the same reason, but playing for a different reason, you know what I mean? Like, they're playing for Coach Ritchie every week after week instead of almost playing for your team and your teammates. That team we had, yes, we were 7-11 or something like that, but we were a good team. We just couldn't get it together. We had a lot of talent on that team. We just couldn't get the right things to turn around when it needed to. And it was terrible when you get a coach like Coach Ritchie fired, and we all felt like it was our fault. Granted, we're in a win performance job. You win, you get fired. It's plain and simple.
Right.
And that transition to Coach Daly, which was a good transition, but very different coach styles, very different. And that adjustment you have to make in the middle. I mean, it kind of helped me because I was a special team guy and I dealt with Daly every day.
For sure.
But for other guys who were just a defensive guy or offensive guy who didn't deal with, Coach Daly every day on a daily basis, that transition was a little tough. But I mean, we found a way to win and we stuck together and, we're competitive. There weren't many games when he left that we got blown out in. I don't think any, maybe one, maybe two in that last half of the season.
Absolutely. So Keith, it makes me think, whatever, you guys have a 7-11 record. I know this is just a weird contrast or the way my mind thinks sometimes. But did you guys during that season go to 7-11 a lot for Slurpees with a 7-11 record?
Nah, I wish I would have had a little NIL deal with 7-Eleven back then or something like that. And figured that out.
Gotcha. Okay, so again, you played with an amazing running back who I think, again, arguably in my opinion, the three best running backs that I grew up watching was Charles Roberts, who we're going to talk about, Mike Pringle, and John Avery. So I'm just running through your memories.
Three.
Yeah, those are my top three. Yeah.
I mean, Sweet Chuck, man. Charles was my guy, man. I love playing with him. One of the most talented guys I've ever seen play. But I don't think he got, granted, he's a Hall of Famer. And the credit that he's got is unbelievable. But the boy was tough, man. He didn't miss games. Chuck didn't miss games.
For sure. I still vividly recall, Keith, you're going to love this story. And I'm just trying to make this like a back and forth between me and you in dialogue. Me and my pops are sitting down on the west side. I think that's where the Bomber side was the west side, if I'm not mistaken, at the old Canadian Stadium. And it's like Charles Roberts keeps getting punished, but he's always backing and he's always taking a lot of punishment. He carried our team from a lot of years before you came in. And that's no knocking on the offense and the defense, but Charles Roberts was definitely the backbone that really produced the quality in the production business.
Yeah, he was a tough guy. And then it was funny. He when I first got there, me and him were talking whenever, and he wouldn't talk to me at first. The first 3 or 4 days we're at camp, he's practicing, just looking at me now you can see guys just sizing you up. You're the new guy, and they size you up okay, who's this guy? What's he doing? Because Charles knew that I played running back as well in Montreal, so he thought I was coming here to play running back. I was like, no, I'm not playing running back here. Don't want any parts of running back at all. I said, I'm here to give you a break where you don't got to return kicks anymore. Because I think Johnson was there and he went to the NFL at that time, right?
Yep, to the Dolphins.
Yep.
Albert Johnson III. Great. That's another good kick returner.
Yeah, he was another great one. He went to the NFL and they had Charles back there returning kicks or trying to get it all done. So I was just there to give him a rest.
Absolutely. And it was really good. They talk about thunder and lightning, and that's basically the best way to quantify both of you guys is thunder and lightning.
Yeah, I mean,
Batman and Robin.
He was awesome. Then you get, when I was in Toronto, played with Avery, who was, oh my God, super quick, super talented guy, slashing. Oh man, fast. Unbelievable. But could catch the ball at the backfield, ran hard, but he was a practice man. He was a comedian. Oh my God. He'd have you laughing every day at practice, all the time in the games. Great guy, man. I actually lived with John Avery when I went to Toronto for a little bit.
After your stint in Winnipeg, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Then man, Mike Pringle, the last one, I mean, what do you say, man? He was a juggernaut, man. I mean, the man lived in the weight room, practiced like a man-child. Yep. I mean, you want to see professional? You look at Mike Pringle, buddy. He practiced hard. I mean, great guy, great teammate. Did all the right things there. I mean, I caught him at the tail end of his career, but I mean, I'm a football guy, so you're gonna watch film and watch old tapes and watch him
for sure
do what he does. I mean, granted, I caught him when he messed his leg up when I had Lawrence Phillips on our team. Pringle was getting hurt. Then the next year he goes to Edmonton and
tears it up.
His career on the right way and did the right things. It was great.
Absolutely. And when you were with all your comrades, like we talked about earlier, your John Averys, your Ed Herveys, your Terry Bonds, what have you, but John Avery left, but you still had say Ed Hervey, Jason Tucker, and Terry Bond. You had Mike Pringle. That was a loaded Hall of Fame team as well.
Oh man, they were the dream team before you hear about a dream team.
Absolutely.
What do you have on that team? Like, you have Ed Hervey, Tucker, Ricky Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all just all on offense with John.
Defense.
They were defense was loaded as well.
AJ Gas, they had Shabazz, I think, was at the time, Shannon Garrett.
AJ Gas. Oh man, they were loaded over there.
Yeah.
Loaded.
Very good, Keith. So also you, again, obviously with being a special teams player of the year, what was it like winning the award, and what are the keys for listeners like younger and older to be a good kick returner and punt returner to have longevity? Because in my opinion, I feel like you're the Devin Hester or Dante Hall of the CFL.
I mean, great. I feel the same way as well myself. I mean, you gotta have confidence back there if you're gonna do it. I mean, I honestly, my first year in 02, when I lost the award to Corey Holmes, was a great return as well.
Right? I agree.
Yeah, he was. When I lost that award,
very underrated.
Time, I told myself, "Look, the next time I'm up for this award, there's no way in the world I'm going to lose it. Like, I'm going to make sure to be no doubt if I'm up for this award again that I will not lose." I think that year I went against Armstead, who was also another longevity, great return guy. I mean, we were different styles, but I mean, you have to believe in yourself and have great teammates that want to sacrifice themselves for you. Like, you have to find a way for your teammates to love special teams just as much as you are back there returning kicks. Because if they don't block, you don't score. That's a plain and simple thing. And you can't be an arrogant guy back there, full time. I mean, you got to have confidence in yourself, but you cannot be, this is me back there and think you're going to get it done.
For sure. So I have a story to mention to you, Keith, and this is from a guy who's a close friend of mine that worked for the Bombers for a while. His name is Jeff Bannon. I don't know if you remember him. He was the director of sales and marketing, who was with you and Stefan, who currently works for the Bombers at a casino in Montreal. Jeffrey refers to you as the most hospital caring and the life of the party with clients at the casino, where you chanted the phrase 6 and 8s, running mates. Can you elaborate on that and give some insight to that story?
Well, yes, so we used to like to play a little craps back in the day. I mean, you got to get into the game, man. 6 and 8s are running mates.
Yeah.
If you're shooting craps and on the dice table, I had a great time, even though it wasn't winning money. It's about enjoying your time in there.
Absolutely, because
I remember all those guys. I remember that time, and those were great times then.
For sure, and because I felt initially, because I visited him in Edmonton at the time, because I found it a feel-good story, because he remembers that a decade and a half later and still talks about it, how it was one of the best times of his life.
Oh man, I had a great time. I mean, those guys were great to me.
So I don't know if you have any good stories with Jeff Bannon. I would love to hear some.
I mean, we're just going out having, maybe Earl's time every now and then. Catch him in Earl.
Very good.
Yeah.
So fast forward, Keith, again, like I really like that story of 6 and 8s and running mates. Do you remember the soft parade in 2007 where you came back to Winnipeg, where you reunited with some of your comrades from the Montreal days, Doug Barry, Terrence Edwards, and playing with some players in the season like Most Legal, who I quantify as the Jerry Rice of the CFL, and a cornerback, Mr. It's Over Now, Jerron Bolden, singing us to the Grey Cup in 2011. In my opinion, the Deion Sanders of the CFL. Just my honest opinion, some feelings I have towards you as the Dante Hall of the CFL.
I do remember that season. I think that was my journey year. I mean, 07, I was traded from Edmonton. Or was I in Toronto? I don't even remember. That I started that season in Montreal. because I was traded from Toronto back to Montreal. Didn't play much. I mean, I was bouncing around. Then I was actually, when Ross called me to come back, I was eating dinner with my aunt at Perkins. We just got done with church. We were at Perkins, and Ross calls and was like, "Hey, when can you be here?" And I was like, actually, it was the first question they always ask, "What have you been doing?" First question every guy says, "Oh, I've been in the gym working out. I've been working out, coach. I've been working out." I was eating dinner from church at Perkins.
Gotcha.
Having pancakes and eggs or whatever it was, like something crazy. And he was like, "When can you be here?" I'm like, "You tell me when." He's like, "Well, can you get on a flight tonight?" Done. I never forget that. I wasn't packed. I wasn't fully packed. I jumped on a plane, got there, and my clothes my bags, like through customs, wasn't gonna make it, and I'd have missed my flight. I left my bag in Minnesota, just got on the plane, and when I got
Layovers.
to Winnipeg, my first 3 days, I didn't have any clothes. I had the bomber issue clothes. I went over to the mall over there at Polo Park, grabbed some clothes, couple clothes, whatever, and so I wore for a couple days until my bags came in. There was no way I
Nice.
was gonna miss that flight and not be there for that next first day of practice and physicals and not be able to play.
For sure. So Keith, again, that's a really amazing story about hearing the whole like debacle of going to airports and also with like luggage and going to shopping malls. Perkins, just so you know, amazing restaurant is no longer around, but it was a great
Oh
establishment.
man, that was my pregame spot every pregame.
Gotcha. So can you share some of the stories that you have because Canada Stadium's no longer there? Can you share some stories of fans, teammates, coaches, and memories in that soul stealer of a season in the 2007 Grey Cup against Saskatchewan, and what you remember most about Canadians, then everything that was associated with it?
No, Canadians. I remember a game I don't think who we were playing. We were playing we were playing Montreal. I can think about the Montreal game. We were in a shootout against Montreal. And the my first game playing against Montreal, I'm in Winnipeg, and I made a bet with like probably 8 or 7 guys on Montreal's team that I'm gonna run a kickback and we're gonna beat you. Montreal was in first place.
I remember.
And I did run a kickback. We did beat Montreal. We didn't win many games that year,
No.
but Canadian Stadiums was wild that night. It was jumping, going crazy. We ended up beating Montreal. I ended up running a kickback. Those guys ended up paying me money. I bet them like 8 or 9 guys that I would run a kickback. I did, and we won. So oh man, it was a great time there. Then I can go back to that 07 season. When I come back, we play Montreal in the playoffs. And man, it was great. We had that fourth and goal stop. They were trying to go up to win. Then I had like a decent return. Come back. Troy kicks his long field goal for us to win the game with no time on the clock, if I'm almost not mistaken.
Great kicker.
Yeah, I mean it was a crazy time. And the best part was when I came back to Montreal. I mean, came back to Winnipeg that season. Like it was like I never left from 04.
Gotcha.
Like, I mean, I played with Terrence before in Montreal. I mean, obviously I played with Milton, those other guys, but it was like, oh man, Stokes come back, great times, and oh man, I loved it.
Absolutely. Good deal. Good deal, Keith. So I'm just gonna wrap it up, not like just have like a Q&A panel for like the next segment, just discussing about like just different questions that I think fans and listeners would want to know because again, tailoring it to my audience for that daily dose of positivity. I just want to ask you some questions that are somewhat football driven, but also more on a personal level. So if you're cool with that, are you ready to start it?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay, Keith. So, what assumptions do people make about you when they first meet you? Are they right or wrong?
I think they're right. My assumption, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm guessing people first impressions of me has to be that I'm probably as you said. I mean, I'm a caring guy, fun guy, like to have a good time.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're right.
Yeah, I'll agree. That's right. And that's again, that's a subjective
Yeah.
opinion. I've met you, we've interacted, we're talking right now. So this is more, I guess this would be more sensitive. And just to clarify, it's just about paying homage to people, whether it's growing up, playing sports and football. How do you pay tribute or remember the people that you've lost in your life?
Uh, Honestly, I haven't lost many people. I lost my grandmother, far family wise, probably 2 years ago. It was during COVID, so 2 or 3 years ago.
My
I mean,
condolences.
uh, just doing the right things that they've taught you in your life, like whatever it's been, whether it was a family member, like my grandmother's taught me, just be kind and do all the right things, and don't take. One thing that was big was respect. like giving people their respect. Like I'm a yes ma'am, yes sir guy, always. My football team, I yes sir, yes ma'am them all the time, and they yes ma'am and yes sir every adult that they see, and make sure I instill that in those guys there because it goes a long way.
For sure.
Like that little stuff there goes a long way.
I agree, Keith. And who would you, if the word is brought up to you in a conversation, they say the word hero, who's the first name that comes to mind, and why would you say that person?
Hero. To me, it'll be my probably my brother and my mother, probably like my heroes because like my mom for one, like you said, like me giving back and doing stuff like that. Like I've seen that all my life. Like I've been in a house where we have we have a microwave, got a TV, got beds and all that, and we're at church and Sister Lisa has two kids and the one kid sleeping on the floor. My mom be like, "Hey, give Sister Lisa your bed, and you go sleep on the couch." And I'm like, "My bed? Yes, they need a bed. Go give them your bed." And we give our bed up, and
Love it.
she'll say, "God will provide for us," and
Absolutely.
we'll have a bed. Somebody else will give us a bed or give us a couch. Like I've come home 1,000 times and a TV be gone, a microwave be gone, and my mom is giving to someone else. Like right now, we have a what do we want to call it? A soup kitchen that we run out of Alabama, probably 3 or 4. She has four shelters that she runs, homeless food shelters that she runs for the homeless right now in Alabama. That we just
Nice.
run for them. And I guess I'll say my brother because he probably instilled the competitive nature in me and wouldn't let me. I don't want to say quit, but wouldn't let me settle. Like wouldn't let me like. No, I just want to be a part. No, you don't want to be a part. Like you want to be the part. You know what I mean? Like
Gotcha.
so. Always
I'm
tell
following
my
you.
kids. I always tell my kids. Like I told my daughter and my son all the time. Like when you're playing sports or whatever you're doing, make sure when you leave that place, it takes more than one person to replace you, or
Gotcha.
they remember you when they replace you. Like right now, you're talking to me because what I've done in Winnipeg was memorable, and they've had great guys return kicks and been done.
I
Javon
agree.
Johnson was a great one. Albert Johnson was a great one that was there
Mm-hmm.
return, but whatever I did or done there, you're gonna remember whatever I've done in a positive way.
Absolutely. Like I said, like I showed you that picture earlier in the conversation, and that like still gives me goosebumps looking at that photo.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a creepy way, but Keith Stokes are one of the best returners ever. So I would ask you a question like that's more football centric. What would you, if someone asked you, like just say in the CFL, if you had to say who you pledge your allegiance to, whether it be Montreal, Winnipeg, or Toronto, and that's directed your way, who would you say and why?
Oh man, could I say two?
You could say two. I'm okay with two, my friend.
It would have to be Montreal and Winnipeg. I mean, Montreal brought me in. I won a Grey Cup there.
Right.
Um, I can't. I had great times there. I
Gotcha.
mean, Winnipeg allowed me to play more offensively. My probably '05, I had close to 1,000 yard receiving, and I only probably played 9 games starting at receiver, if that.
Gotcha.
And they allowed me to flourish and show that I could be more than just a return guy.
For sure. So I would be
Uh,
remiss. Go ahead. Sorry, you're talking. I apologize.
yeah, and I mean, I'm grateful for that. I mean, if that's one thing that I wish I would have got a chance to do longer in Winnipeg would show that I could play receiver as well as be a dynamic return guy.
Gotcha. So you were saying earlier about like Toronto, and we're talking about like good punt returners and kick returners. I would be remiss if I don't mention Toronto because Toronto was definitely a team, and that's no knocking about who your allegiance is with. But what are your memories with Pinball Clemens? Because again, there was like Gizmo Williams back in the day, Bashir Livingston, yourself, Jason Armstead, the Albert Johnsons of this world. What was that experience like?
Well, first of all, like Gizmo, we went to the same college.
I never knew that.
Yeah,
Learn something new every day, my friend. Iron
and
sharpens
the
iron.
crazy part is, there's a couple records at East Carolina that I don't have because of him. Like he's one, I'm two, and like a couple things, but which was crazy. Like I mean, being in Toronto with pinball, and Bashar was there the same time I was there as well, along with Arlen Bruce.
That's another guy that's never talked
Yeah,
about too much. Arlen Bruce was amazing as well.
I mean Brucey was unbelievable. I mean, I learned actually from pinball how to adjust, meaning you're in different scenarios on how to play the game of returning. Like I never thought the game of returning in football as like I'm thinking get field position and move. Pinball taught me how to play the game of returning, and I don't even think he realized that he taught me it how to play the game returning as an offensive or a defensive play, how it accumulates as offensive play in the CFL.
Gotcha.
Like depending on what the time is on the clock, if I can push for this return or try to score or not, or just catch the ball here, gives this field position for this down and distance. Our team has momentum. I used to just think when I was first started the game, catch a return, just score. Like thinking in a selfish way, I'm only going to get probably 5 returns a game. I want to score every play.
I hear you.
Pinball taught me that in the game of returning, you're an offensive guy. So if the offense gets that momentum running from your return, or just catching the ball in the air, getting the extra 15 yards or 5 yards for whatever the penalty may be, when you get into the game as returning, your next return will be better because of what you've done to the offense and giving our team that momentum.
For sure. So, Keith, this might be a question that's, again, I asked this to Jeff Reinbold, who's another good coach through the Bombers' history.
Yes, he is.
Special teams guy, and again, you're a special teams guy, and this is just a conversation that we had discussing between the CFL and NFL, and this was actually prompted by our buddy Jeff Bannon, who asked, what do you think has the better rules, or could CFL principles be adapted in the NFL in terms of replay, kick returns? I can't remember the other one, but just basically like the returns, because the way the CFL is, I think it would make the NFL a lot more entertaining than it is to watch right now, and it's a great league to watch.
I mean, it would be. I mean, NFL and CFL are both great leagues. But as a return guy, me personally, right?
Yeah.
You lose that return game part of your football in the NFL because the kickers are so dynamic. And the field is a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kicking kickoffs out the back of the end zone. Unless it's a windy day, there isn't a return at all as far as a kickoff. I mean, you can catch the punts, but the guys are hang time at what? 5.5. Some maybe 6 because they're so good now. I mean, if they could add that CFL, that 5 yards, I mean, that's huge.
For sure.
I mean, it'd change the momentum, change the game, change how people think. I think it'd be a great rule to change. I mean, they're changing rules right now, but I don't think the NFL would adapt to it, or I think that's what makes the CFL. Like
absolutely, make it
the 3
unique. They're
down,
both apples
the
and oranges.
return game, and you got to keep them separate, in my opinion. The rules, even though I think it'll make the CFL a big staple to the NFL, but I kind of like the way it is as far as the CFL not allowing the NFL to take their rules.
For sure. Like the only one that I could understand where Jeff's point of view is coming from, being like a football dad, then also at the same time, though, understanding the dynamics. He brought up about, like, say, overtime, or if you're looking at replays, like, if there's now challenges for like pass interference, for example.
Oh,
It's good to
yeah.
look at that on replay because sometimes everybody makes
You're
mistakes in
gonna
life.
that human error is going to be there
For sure.
and the replay there, which I would love. Jeff for sure. I think he was in Hamilton that year when they lost, and it was a return which should have been replayed.
Yeah.
And then they lost the Grey Cup. But I mean, to have that again, you got to have that NFL money.
For sure.
CFL doesn't have that revenue to have that thing turn over like that. I mean, I'm not saying the CFL is broke and has done a great job, but
two distinct styles in the way that the league makes each league unique.
Absolutely.
What would you say, Keith, when someone asks you, and this is again very obscure, subjective, I think all my questions have been that, and that's not no knocking on me. What are your favorite bands and artists or songs that always puts you in a good mood?
Puts me in a good mood. I'm an Outkast fan. So anything Outkast, old school, rap. But I used to listen to, like, before games, like real, like real mellow songs like Lil Lauryn Hill.
Nice.
Yeah, something real chill, laid back. Um, what was her name? Closer to My Dreams, like crap. What's the name of the song? Nora Jones, Run Away with Me was like on
Oh,
my
that's
playlist
good.
for games. Like that was I
Michelle
listened to
Branch,
before
Sarah
games.
McLachlan, stuff like that.
Yeah, like
Nice.
real chill, laid back. Okay. It's too much energy jumping around, screaming and yelling. I mean, I never really I listened to it, but I mean, very rare.
Gotcha. So tell me more. Like, so you're listening to music. Do you find that gave you an edge during like the games? Like, listen to that chill music and special teams because having that mentality, it's always on. Do you feel it gave you an edge compared to the opposition?
An edge, no, not. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think the music gave me an edge to that. I mean, it calmed me down and kept me mellow,
Gotcha.
but an edge with music, no. I mean, first of all, football is so much mental than physical anyway. So any way you can find an edge, you better take it.
Absolutely. So Keith, what would you say is your favorite movie of all time? And again, that's very you could cover so many genres, but if there was like two, one or three that stood out to you, what would they be?
You'll be surprised. I'm going to tell you my top three. My top three would be The Notebook.
I love that movie. It's very,
Great
very
movie, man.
emotional. Yep.
Remember the Titans,
Yes.
and probably
Have you seen Braveheart?
that is my fast one right there, Braveheart. And people don't know that Braveheart's a love story.
It's an amazing love story.
Great movie.
My
Brave,
favorite.
Remember the Titans in the Notebook. My would be my top three.
Sorry, what was the second one, Keith? I didn't hear the second one.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans, especially with Denzel Washington, about how
Yeah.
they're making sure that there's the continuity to make sure
Oh
that
yeah.
everyone's together. Because I believe
And there's a
it's
couple
love,
of
unity, and respect.
great scenes, one-liners, quotes coming out of that movie. Man, you got so many. It's nuts.
For sure. So if you had to narrow out of those three, which one would you pick?
Huh.
Yeah,
Ah.
that's fine, buddy.
Oh man. Oh man. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I couldn't do it.
If it was me in your shoes, if you were directed that conversation to me out of those three and say those are my three favorite movies, I would go with Braveheart, and that's not knocking Notebook and Remember the Titans. Just the story about of a guy that loses a lot of people close to him in his life.
Yeah.
He's his like girlfriend at the time, the one that handed him the flower at the
Yeah.
beginning, and
I
about
think I
how
think I would do Remember the Titans because I know so much of the movie.
yeah,
Know so many words.
the one-liners, the whole
Yeah.
storyline, what it's about, and just Denzel Washington being one of the best actors, and that's not
Yeah.
knocking in Mel Gibson and whoever else is that I brought up. If there was a billboard, Keith, and you had a billboard, what would you want it to say?
Mm.
Based on your life or you as a person, of your beliefs.
Oh man. A billboard. What would it say? Perfect. I got it. My billboard would say, "My yes is not your no."
I love it. And expand it onto my listeners. I get with what you're saying, but I want you to enlighten my listeners.
So basically, I've heard no as a 5'8", 100 and back then 175 pounder. I've heard no from everybody as far as sports, and that doesn't mean that's my no or my yes is my yes. So if you tell me, hey, you can't play football with this team, I'm gonna make it where I can play on this team. I'll find a way. I'll figure it out. No, whether it's going through another back door, asking someone else to get it done, proving you to a point where I'm working so hard, you have no choice but to put me on this team.
I feel
And
you
that
and
goes in
empathize with
everything in
you.
life, that far as a job or,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you want to get in shape, which I need to right now, I got to lose a couple of lbs, man. I got to get back.
Run that marathon with Terry Bond and Ed Hervey.
Yeah, I mean, that's what my billboard would say.
I love it.
My yes is my yes. Your no is not my no.
For sure. So it actually ties into something that I'm a firm believer on. So it's reasonable to assume, Keith, based off your thing, my yes is not your no. Is that what you said? Just to clarify?
Yeah, my yes is not your no.
Exactly. That's what I thought. So when people make pigeonhole and confine them on their limitations, Are you a big fan of that? And when you see it happening, how do you handle that as a situation? Whether it's
Uh,
yourself or just people that you know throughout your life. It's a very
I'm
deep
a per-
question.
it is, but I think I'm a person who I have and everyone should have this, a confidence or arrogance about yourself, about what you know. And that kind of bleeds off on your surroundings and people around you. It doesn't have to be a negative way, but when you bring confidence in what you're saying or doing, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Gotcha. I totally agree. And what would you say is like a recent purchase you made that's $100 or less that served a great purchase, whether it was the last 6 months or just in general? What is an investment that you're very proud of that you have?
Investment,
That's
uh,
$100 or less.
$100 or less. Mm, trying to think. What did I just? Oh, I just bought some spin shoes.
Nice.
Spin cycle shoes. I'm about to lock in April 1st. April 1st is my date, and I'm locking in. I'm gonna try to spin 3 days a week.
I wish you the best. And maybe you could have another CFL run or an NFL run. Who knows? Tom Brady played
Yeah,
a lot of years. Bob Cameron did. I think you can make a comeback, Keith.
let me coach. tell
Gotcha.
tell one of them, tell one of those teams to hire me, man. I come coach and get one of those
Bro.
guys over there or something.
Absolutely, you'd make it definitely a difference. What would you give to a like just say a fast uprising college student? What advice should they take and what advice should they ignore? If someone was to approach you for advice and advice that they should ignore.
As an athlete, I would say that the best thing with this social media stuff going on, if you think twice about it, don't do
Gotcha.
it. If you're with the social media stuff going on and everything going viral with cameras and stuff like that, if you got to think twice about it, don't do it.
Gotcha. 100%. And what advice what should they ignore? I think that's what the way you just said. But
Yep. What advice they should ignore?
and what advice like say like career and life advice? If you were
Um,
to give like in terms in general.
I would think they would ignore is that you have to win or save everyone. Like you can't do it. Everyone says like, yes, I want to make it for my family. I want to make it as the family name. Yes, have a good stand on the family name, but like you can't. And a lot of people try to make it for a lot of other reasons, but you got to find a way to make a reason for yourself. Like put a good stint on your family name, whatever it is, but like you can't make it for my mom, make it for my dad, and live up to that forever. Like that's tough.
100%. I agree with that.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Just make them proud in your little moments that you did. Like you did it well, you got there well, great. But I mean, that's it.
Absolutely. So, Keith, what would you say, or whatever, too, if you were to look back 20 years ago and you're talking to a young Keith Stokes, what are you telling him?
Oh, a young Keith Stokes. We'll say CFL Keith Stokes. I would say work harder.
Gotcha.
I would work. I would work harder. I
You're
would
doing a
be
lot.
the first in, the last out.
Incredible. Similar principles that Michael Jordan used, like Tom Brady's
Yeah, I
used.
mean,
Steve Milt, I'm sure, did it
you didn't realize like how much the little things mattered
for sure.
then. Like now as a coach, I do see it like, and I preach to my son and make my son like work. Like you're up at 5 in the morning, go to the gym, go work out, go do something. Like that little stuff matters.
Gotcha. So, Keith, again, this is a very deep question I'm going to ask you. If this is like, say, your last interview or just like for public consumption or just in general in your life, how do you want to be remembered as a football player, as a father, and as a person? For your
Football player
legacy?
first. Football
Yeah,
player first. I guess I would say great competitor. Like loves to compete, will compete always. Um, next one, what was that? As a father?
Father
Uh,
or just as a person in life? You could answer them both together because that's sort of like they sort of tie in together.
uh, that I care. I'm a caring person that I care more about the person than I do about the success.
Absolutely. And the final
Um,
question. Oh no, go ahead, Keith. You were about to say, and I apologize again. I
yeah,
think I cut you off.
that it's success is great, but if you don't care about the success, it's gonna die fast.
100%. I agree. So what would you say to like just say in your profession of being a kick returner in special teams, similar to the question I asked you earlier, what advice should they take and what should they ignore when it comes to the kick returner that you've seen it done in college, CFL, NFL, or even just being a coach right now?
Uh, as a returner, I would say learn, and I did this later. Learn the punters. If you're a punt return guy, like watch film and learn the punters, like what they do, where they are hash wise and stuff like that. It's little stuff that I learned later in my career, which if I'd learned earlier, I would have destroyed records, like destroyed them.
You would have destroyed Gizmos. And I love Gizmo. He's great
Oh,
for
I listen. I want to say 5 yards away from breaking Gizmo's record my rookie year, and they kicked the ball out of bounds 3 times in a row because I wouldn't break it.
Love it, Keith.
Yeah.
So
Now go ahead.
no, you're talking. I'm letting you carry first. It's about you,
Uh,
not about me. I'm sorry.
no, I forgot actually.
Okay, so we were talking about breaking records, and you were 5 yards like past Gizmo. That was your train of thought. Do you want to expand on that?
So we were playing Edmonton. I had 2 kicks back in that game. I would have had 3, but I was tired. Like literally, I ran a punt back first half. Then I get one in the second half. I run another one back. Then we get a 2 and out, and they punt it back. And I'm going to run another one back. I just ran out of gas. Then they had 3 more punts in that game. All 3 punts were out of bounds. All I had
Gotcha.
to get was 5 yards. I'm gonna get 5 yards.
Nice. Anyways, Keith, I just want to take this opportunity to say, like, that's just wrapping up this interview. I just thought it was a very good positive injection. I'm feeling a lot of emotion and a lot of conviction with what Muhammad Ali said is the repetition of affirmations becomes a belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. In other words, the story you tell yourself and from your beginning of your life, your story growing up in New Jersey, segueing to your college CFL, becoming a father, then becoming a football coach, it's very commendable. You've been a huge aspiration. And again, when I started this podcast, I was just thinking the names and Keith Stokes kept coming to my mind. So I think God aligned, the stars aligned for this great interview and for positivity injection, whether it's the special teams kick returner, arguably one of the best. I couldn't thank you. I'm proud of who you are as a person. I really appreciate you coming on and taking your time talking to me.
Hey, I appreciate it. Appreciate having you on, man. Anytime.
Very
And
good,
best of
Keith.
luck to you in this career and this podcast going on.
Absolutely, Keith. So long, much love and much
All
respect.
right.
Peace, love, unity, and
Take care.
respect. Take care,
Yep.
buddy. Talk to
Later.
you later. Yeah, just gonna end it, Keith. Here we
Yep.
go. And that's a take.
Perfect.
Take care, buddy. Love you, man.